make your way through this audiobook, I hope you gain some understanding of what it's like to be a comedian these days. I sincerely want you to develop an appreciation of the role comedy plays in fostering healing and cohesion during difficult periods like the present, when our fragile democracy is under attack. But most of all, no matter what, I want you to keep laughing. Eternity is a mere moment, just long enough for a joke. Hermann Hesse. 1. It's not funny until the fat lady cries. Going to a comedy club and expecting not to get offended is like going on a roller coaster and expecting not to get scared. Eddie Sarfati. I've never cried in front of my therapist, and believe me, I've had lots and lots of therapists and even more reasons to cry. I always felt that if I shed tears in a therapy session, the therapist would have all the power. Naturally, I felt like they were trying to make me cry, as if they were manipulating me in some way. If I gave in to their manipulation, it would be a sign of weakness. My parents had taught my siblings and me that when people show their emotions, especially in public, it's because they want attention. It's fake. And so everyone in my immediate family suffered in silence. I remember when I was 6 years old, my brother, sister, and I were watching Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer upstairs on my parents' black and white television. Near the end of the movie, when Santa promises to find loving homes for all the misfit toys and announces that Christmas isn't canceled after all because Rudolph's bright red nose is going to lead the sleigh through the storm, I started crying, hysterically bawling. All those misfits who'd been shunned and mocked were finally vindicated. I put my hands on either side of my head like horse blinders so my siblings couldn't see my tears. But of course, they knew exactly what was happening, especially with the sniffling sounds and quick staccato breaths. That was their cue to berate me and tease me for crying over a fake reindeer. I was the youngest, and humiliating me was their job. I was mortified. Well, as much as a 6-year-old is capable of being mortified. They caught me at my most vulnerable moment and laughed at me. That would be the first of thousands of times I would be made fun of for something out of my control. That's one of the major factors in why I became a stand-up comedian. Another reason I chose a profession where the goal is to elicit laughter on your own terms is that by the time I was 13 years old, I was already 6 feet tall. Being an uncoordinated 6-foot-tall 8th grader was not what every adolescent Jewish girl in New Jersey dreamed of in 1975. I was taller than my mother, my older sister, my teachers, the principal, my parents' friends, my friends' parents, and the rabbi presiding over my bat mitzvah. I would grow 3 more inches, only to later lose one of them to knee replacement surgery, join my school's marching band, and endure days filled with kids yelling Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Orca, Jolly Green Giant, or Big Bird every time I walked down the hallway. I rarely told my mother what was happening at school because the last time she took me to the doctor to get measured and weighed, the two of them sat there for what seemed like forever, telling me how lucky I was to be so tall. After the Pump Judith Up session, my mother asked me to leave the room for a minute so she could talk to the doctor alone. With my ear pressed against the other side of the door, I heard my mother say, "When is it going to stop?" That's what I learned, that most people are full of shit. Oh, and that was also my first joke. Whenever I did break down and tell my mother about the abuse I was dealing with at school, her only advice was to ignore it. She would tell me that the kids were picking on me because they were little pipsqueaks who were jealous of my height, and that all of them secretly wished they were as tall as me. I wore a size 12 shoe by the time I was 12 years old. So when my teachers would recite that old maxim, "Act your age, not your shoe size," I would reply, "Same thing." I took my mother's advice to heart, and even though I heard every single taunt loud and clear, you would never have known by looking at me. I simply acted as if I'd heard nothing or that I was preoccupied with something else. Since there were no cell phones, I couldn't fake that I was texting or on a call. I had to be creative. I'd pretend.